I see signs of hand. Okay. Niklas Negroponte.
Since this question will come up over and over again, I think everybody believes that we are the means to achieve human rights. And I don't know if in history the means has ever been a human right itself. But if the means are not a human right, then you're not going to get the human rights themselves. So I don't know if, Romano, you want to discuss it, or others want to discuss the human rights nature, because we use the word pretty frequently, and we should at least spend 2 minutes either agreeing or not agreeing, but at least discussing that aspect.
Thank you. And it's so clear that a privilege should be transformed into a right. And as an educator, and I see that we must go to the margins. The future of education is in the margins. We should reach the very poor, those who have nothing, and at all ages, because we have a notion of education, in my opinion, too restricted to the first years of life of the children and the young, but the adults and the elders should be incorporated. And we will see that Miguel Brechner will tell us what we are doing in Uruguay in that case. But this continuous education should should unfold in every part of the world. And if we go to the margins, if we go to those who have nothing, I'm a medical doctor and I did a lot of work with disabled. If you can reach, for instance, a disabled person because he's connected, you change his life or her life. And then when you proceed that at the very margins and you solve a problem there, many other problems will come very easily. But we should go, and I think Pope Francis is always calling for that, going to the margins, going for the very limits. And it's not a mission impossible, it's our mission. This is all that I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. Turk, please.
Thank you. My name is Danilo Turk. I'm former president of Slovenia and member of Club de Madrid. In this capacity, I'm participating in this meeting. And since you, Mr. Chairman, has generously offered the possibility to make a comment or ask question on this excellent introduction by Prime Minister Prodi, I would like to refer to the question raised by Mr. Negroponte, whether the connectivity could be defined in terms of human rights proper, as human rights are generally defined. Well, surely we shall discuss this further, but for the initial phase, I would like to suggest two things. First, the element of entitlement, which is very much inherent in the Human Rights Code, the Universal Human Rights. If you take, for example, Article 28 of the Universal Declaration, which speaks about everybody being entitled to a social and international order in which human rights can be fully realized. So the element of entitlement is inherent in human rights law or human rights concept. If we look at economic, social, and cultural rights, we see more of that entitlement element present. For example, the right of everyone to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. We're not talking about the right to health as such, because health depends on many factors, but we do talk about something that human society can put together in form of a system that then guarantees the individual a possibility to enjoy the highest level of health. So in human rights system as it now exists at the universal level, we have plenty of bases, different bases that tell us about the entitlement aspect of human rights, and that should be explored further with regard to internet. Prime Minister Prodi also spoke about the right to development, which I think is an important concept in this connection, not only because it expresses the same understanding of human rights, entitlement understanding, but also because it reaches beyond ideological divides. And this is my second point. We have to be very much aware that internet is a subject of different interpretations, including ideological and political interpretations. In China, the whole idea of usefulness of internet is a little different from what we are seeing in the West. But the question is, can we overbridge these type of gaps, which are to some extent ideological and in many ways practical, political, and so forth. So I would suggest that in human rights literature we have concepts that can help us to bridge those gaps. This is what I would like to say at this stage. Thank you.
Very helpful, Mr. Torero.
Thank you. Only one little comment is regarding is the human right to connectivity or the human right to access to connectivity? And the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes we cannot treat the different groups of age as silos. And we can create access indirectly through upper or mobility of intergenerations. So how we can provide access could be direct or indirectly, and that could be a human right that is possible to operationalize and to implement. Thank you.
There already has been also an...
Like this.
Okay. Thank you. There already has been an emphasis that has been made by the Human Rights Council in a resolution format about the importance of exercise, of people enjoying the same rights online that they enjoy offline. While it does not establish the mechanism in detail on how we do that, I think this is an opportunity for us to make those connections. So the embrace and the expectation that in the 21st century and in the digital era, we have to use the technology that we have to fully ensure that those whose rights, who are not enjoying their full rights, do enjoy them, is something that we are expected to unpack. And I guess the sooner we do it, the sooner more people whose rights who are not enjoying the rights they can enjoy will be assisted. So I see our work as really making these connections using the resolutions that already exist that are going in the same direction.
Thank you. Could I turn back to you, President Prodi, to react to some of the comments, as you like?
It's too early to react because we are still organizing things. You know, the problem is that I think we have to distinguish the problem of right per se and how to make this available for everybody. You know, in my introduction, I put all the problems because I thought that this was an introduction, but I do think that in the following discussion, we have clearly to divide the philosophical aspect that was raised by Monsieur Sorandi in the beginning from how to help that this becomes a common instrument, you know. So I don't want to get more into this now, but to push the discussion, to clarify the right per se and instruments, because I think that in the final declaration we have to stress the concept, but also to be strong on the idea that this must be distributed equally to the world. I limit myself to this observation now, because I think that the discussion must go on, and I do think that Professor Negroponte will give a contribution to this progress that will be part of the strategy of today.
Thank you for, again, for your presentation and for the interventions. I think I'm afraid we need to move on, and we will have time